In the cacophonic symposium that is the modern American political arena, Destiny's musings serve as both a lugubrious elegy and a scalpel, dissecting the bloated cadaver of governance while the hydra-headed beast of ideological decay continues its inexorable feast.
If you don't take the Yarvin, Thiel, Vance, Quarter, and their ideology seriously, there's an interesting, rich, and dark genealogy of thought and social phenomena there to dig into. I don't know. The issue is that, like, I feel like ever since I'm feeling, I don't want to say I feel vindicated in this because I didn't think it would be this bad. But one of the things that I was saying over and over again was that if Trump gets elected, like, the worst thing about Trump getting elected is that he got elected. And it is showing that all the stuff before didn't matter. And I don't know if just because I read X, which is like, man, what a platform X is. It really feels like Republicans are just like mask off now. Like there's no more pretending to be like, oh yeah, like we want small government and we don't want to censor everybody and we want to be like the party of like respect. Like they're totally done with all that. And now it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. Like talking about some political things, it feels kind of like a joke. Like, does anybody actually give a f about any of this? I have no idea. Like when I say this, things like rule of law or the Department of Justice, like now it just kind of feels like an open joke. Like if you were to go 15 years ago and tell a Republican, like, you guys are going to weaponize the DOJ, they'd be like, no, we're not. And then it feels like if you were to go to a Republican in 2020 and say, you guys are going to weaponize the DOJ, they'll say like, no, or if we do, it's because you guys deserved it. You did it first. But now it feels like if you were to go to a conservative, like a Trump voter, and say, you're going to weaponize the DOJ, the conservative would just say, yeah, we are, because we are righteous and we're going to destroy you and take out everything that doesn't represent what we want it to be. And we don't even care what the reason is. It's like, okay, well, Jesus. Was that Churchill quote you mentioned in the Vice interview even real? If you're not a liberal when you're 25, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by the time you're 35, you have no brain. One of the things that I feel like I've learned is basically 80% of the quotes, 80% of the quotes that are appealed to, applied to, accredited to. What's the word I'm looking for? Credited to? Attributed to. Like 80% of the quotes that are attributed to Churchill are either have never been said before. Well, somebody said them, I guess it was a quote, or it's not Churchill at all saying it. I think that's like Churchill's just like the guy that you, Churchill's just the guy that you put as like the quote if you don't know who actually said it, or if you want a quote to sound better, I guess you just say it came from Churchill. That is the same for most quotes. Yeah, maybe most quotes are poorly attributed, or attributed. Yeah, attributed to. Are you ever gonna play PUBG with Moon ever again? Maybe someday. I feel like I have so much to do right now. Games do not captivate me or draw my interest at all. I don't know. I blame the Vyvanse. It zombified me. Degenerates like you are the reason Kamala lost. Real Americans tired of your ilk expect a return to decency where disgusting people like you are shunned and shamed. True. I'm going to pick up a wife immediately and rape her repeatedly and then tell the government that they're not allowed to intervene because she's my property. We need to go back to true conservative values. Yes. Yes, King. Yes. Trump starts on positive note as most approve of transition handling. Good job. Do you think Kamala or Biden will get any credit for that at all? Reading stuff like this is crazy. It's hard to. I imagine I'm just kind of waiting for. I feel like it's set in later. I think people like Josiah. I don't know if Josiah's still in chat. Were saying that they were mega demotivated after the election, and I was like, I think it's fine. But now maybe I'm hitting my slump. Maybe I have like a 2-week, not even a 2-week, like a 3-week delay, and now I'm like, oh Jesus, maybe it's hitting me now. So I'm hoping in like a week or two, it'll feel less insane. They are talking about the cabinet appointments, not the literal transition, right? It doesn't really matter what they're talking about. When you have a guy who literally did an insurrection to prevent the peaceful transfer of power, and now people are approving of his transition handling, let alone the fact that he got elected again, it's just insane. but this is amazing content for you. I've never viewed it that way. I don't know why people say that. Maybe for some people it is, but I don't really take joy or pleasure in like watching my country being destroyed. There's plenty of like really good content that I don't cover on my stream, like ever. Like I don't do breaking news, obviously, and that's a huge revenue driver for a lot of people. It's just boring to me. What do you want me? What do you want me to say? He's dead. Okay, we'll know more about it tomorrow. Do you think Dems and their policies will change radically over the next 4 years, or will it just be a change in how those policies are presented to the people? It has to be a change for the presentation. People get so fixated on policies, and they super just don't matter at all. I don't think it matters. What mic arm are you using? This is a Elgato mic arm, but it's one of the newer like pneumatic ones. I think it was like $180. I super recommend.
To speak of the current Zeitgeist, an epoch wherein the Rubicon of political restraint has been not merely crossed but obliterated, is to conjure visions of a Rome undone, its senatorial gravitas now replaced with hyperbolic bellicosity. What destiny laments is not merely partisanship, but a grotesque transmogrification of civic philosophy into a grotesquerie where power supersedes principle and the vox populi cheers the hollowing of one's sacrosanct norms. It must be said without lacuna or circumlocution that the political tableau has undergone a mutation akin to a Nietzschean nightmare. Republicans, once purveyors of rhetorical masks, of small government, individual liberty, and the free marketplace, have abandoned these trappings like a molting serpent, slithering instead into a paradigm of brazen exousia where rule of law is a malleable cudgel. The weaponization of institutions such as the DOJ, once unthinkable to a conservative ethos steeped in distrust of centralized authority, has now become the clarion call of a political vanguard divorced from introspection. The moral calculus has calcified, righteousness is now self-ordained, and any erstwhile pretensions to fairness have been jettisoned into the void. Destiny, in his dialectical evisceration of this landscape, captures the Sisyphean despair of attempting to pass rationality from what has become a spectacle of performative nihilism. The ancient regime of civility, decorum, and mutual respect has been devoured, leaving behind a grotesque simulacrum of politics where ideological purity and tribalism reign supreme. The once wanted rule of law now dances like a marionette, manipulated by partisan ventriloquists who no longer bother with the pretense of objectivity. Indeed, Republicans, unencumbered by the shackles of rhetorical restraint, now revel in their unrepentant realpolitik, a veritable machina ex nihilo where power is its own justification. Yet destiny's lament is not merely about one political faction. It is a dirge for the systemic unraveling of confidence in democracy itself. When he articulates his incredulity at the normalization of anti-democratic phenomena, insurrection, electoral subversion, and rhetorical crusades against truth, his bewilderment transcends mere commentary and enters the realm of existential dread. How, he ponders, does one combat the erosion of reality when the very fabric of political discourse has been subsumed by absurdism? This is not politics as philosophy, but politics as pantomime, where the ridiculous becomes quotidian and outrage becomes oxygen for both sides of the aisle. The genealogy of this descent is manifold, steeped in the genealogy of Yarvinian cynicism and Vancian populism, ideologies that scoff at classical liberalism and romanticize authority as the great corrective. Destiny identifies this intellectual rot not as an aberration but as an inevitable metastasis born of a disillusioned polity. Trumpism, as he observes, did not merely materialize, it emerged as the culmination of decades of bipartisan disenchantment, a grotesque telos where policy no longer matters and only power speaks. In this brave new world, civic responsibility has been replaced by a Hobbesian ethos of domination, a war of all against all where principle is the first casualty. Even the Democrats, destiny intimates, have failed to stem the tide, choosing instead to recalibrate their presentation rather than address the root of their malice. The polity fixates on aesthetic signals and rhetorical tone, while the substratum of policies, whether enacted or opposed, disintegrates into irrelevance. What we now behold is the pageantry of politics, wherein the narrative supersedes the substance, and perception becomes the currency of power. Destiny's cynicism, far from unfounded, reflects a wider truth. The populace has been hypnotized by spectacle, distracted from the creeping implosion of the democratic experiment. This is no longer the politics of polis, the collective management of civic life, but rather a dystopian gladiatorial contest where the objective is not governance but obliteration of the opposition. Destiny's horror at this ideological scorched earth is palpable. The illusion of compromise, the dream of bipartisanship, has been shattered like a vase dropped from Olympus, and its shards now serve as daggers in the hands of warring factions. The very ethos of peaceful transition of power, once the bedrock of American democracy, now seems like a relic from an alternate reality, where the insurrectionary flames of 6th January were but a prelude to further calamities. And yet, destiny refuses to revel in the tragedy unfolding before him. Unlike opportunistic pundits who commodify chaos for clout and revenue, he rejects the notion that these seismic events constitute content to be exploited. His exasperation at being urged to embrace catastrophe as entertainment reflects a vestigial moral clarity that sets him apart. For Destiny, the spectacle is not the point. The unraveling of a nation's moral fabric is not cause for amusement but for alarm. This moral clarity, however lonely, offers a stark counterpoint to the nihilism now festering within both political camps. The cult of personality, too, looms large in Destiny's critique. Figures like Trump, Yarvin, and their ideological progeny represent not solutions but symptoms of a body politic racked with distrust and malice. Their ascendancy signals a shift wherein charisma has eclipsed competence, and rhetoric, no matter how malevolent, commands more loyalty than results. Herein lies the ultimate tragedy. Destiny identifies the death of faith in governance as a vehicle for collective betterment. To engage seriously with these ideological forces, as Destiny advocates, is to grapple with the dark genealogy of thought that underpins them. Yarvin's embrace of monarchism, one's flirtation with authoritarian nostalgia, and the broader reactionary currents they represent demand scrutiny not because they are right but because they are real. Ignoring them does not negate their power, it amplifies their resonance among a disillusioned populace desperate for answers. What Destiny offers, then, is not merely critique but a gauntlet thrown at the feet of those who remain complacent. The political grotesquerie unfolding before us demands vigilance and engagement, not passive horror. To scoff at the Yarvins and Trumps of the world as mere anomalies is to misunderstand the roots of their ascendancy. Their power is derived not from ideology alone but from the void left by a decaying system, a void Destiny compels us to confront. In sum, Destiny's reflections amount to a clarion call against the passive consumption of political absurdity. His exasperation mirrors the quiet desperation of a generation watching their democratic inheritance crumble under the weight of its own contradictions. The carnival of chaos, the normalization of nihilism, and the abdication of principle all form the architecture of our present doom. To ignore it is folly, to confront it, as Destiny does, is our only recourse against the encroaching shadow. This is not mere commentary, it is a warning, delivered in the key of despair. Memento mori, indeed.